Hello everyone, welcome to Red Snapper. My name's MJ and welcome to this in-depth deck guide for the Shield archetype. We're going to be stuffing our hand with random cards and taking advantage of all of these different situations that we can do with these random cards, and also just having a big hand in general with stuff like Devil Dinosaur. In this video we're going to go through how you actually win with the deck and the overall concept, when you should snap, required cards and card substitutions. We're going to look at several different versions of the deck and weaknesses as well, so I hope you enjoy it. If you do go on to enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. So first of all, the overall concept of the Shield archetype. It's all about adding random cards to your hand through things like Maria Hill, Agent Coulson, Nick Fury himself, and then using those random and unpredictable cards that we've got, along with having a high hand size. There's a few different routes that you can go with this kind of deck. So Devil Dinosaur and the big power, copying Devil Dinosaur with things like Moon Girl or Mystique, or just simply using the unpredictability and all of those awesome cards that we've got, along with discounters like Quinjet and Zabu. I'd also like to point out that wearing a black t-shirt on a black background was a bad choice because it just makes me a floating head and some floating hands. But hopefully that's fine and not important to this video. So as I say, we're stuffing our hand and we're generating different options. This allows us to react to our opponent, maybe change our strategy, and maybe get some unexpected wins through different combinations that we didn't realise were possible. So how do you know when to snap with this deck? This deck is a very different style to the normal kind of decks that I play, like Mr. Negative and Nimrod. With those kinds of decks, I have like specific conditions where I know I need to snap. So for example, in Nimrod, if I've got Shuri and Nimrod, I know that I need to snap. If I've got Zabu and Negative in the negative deck, I know that I need to snap in that instance. With this deck, you want to look a little bit more at your opponent's deck and favourable locations. So first of all, let's have a look at what locations do favour us. The first one is Altar of Death. We're going to be constantly generating cards, or essentially rubbish or tokens that we can feed into Altar of Death. So Altar of Death is definitely considering snapping on if you've got some of those. Either discounts already down like Quinjet, or if you've got cards that generate cards, especially things like Agent 13. God, Agent 13 was born to be sacrificed. Camp Lee is decent, getting a random card in our hand. Again, if you've got a discounter at least. Cloning Vats is really good. I like throwing a couple of Quinjets onto Cloning Vats and then throwing a Coulson out and seeing what happens. Daily Bugle again, as long as we've got a as long as we've got a discount card on board, I like Daily Bugle. District X, if I've got Quinjet on curve and I've played Quinjet on 1, District X, I mean, there is the courtesy that you always snap on District X anyway, but if you've got Quinjet down, you certainly snap, and you very often see a retreat, to be honest. Elysium is just absolutely filthy with the Shield archetype, because yes, your opponent is obviously getting the benefit as well and they're playing loads of cards down, but man, when you've got when that Elysium pops up and you throw down, you know, Nick Fury or Agent Coulson, and you just get these incredible options in your hand, because we also have our discounters generally in these decks as well, so Quinjet, Zabu. Maybe in future we'll even play stuff like Ravna Renslayer, if I can get the name out. Ravna Renslayer. Maybe we'll even play her in the Shield deck archetype in future, I don't know. But yeah, Elysium just feels filthy. Lamentus 7 can be a really good one. The negative side is that when Lamentus 7 comes up, there is a 99% chance that your opponent is playing a destroy deck. So just retreat. But if they're not, you can generate those tools back into your hand, and basically we have just more options than our opponent. Luke's Bar is one of the absolute best locations to get. Definitely snap on it if you think you can fill your hand enough to not get bounce backs, basically. So especially if you've got Nick Fury and Luke's Bar, play things like Coulson into Luke's Bar maybe on turn 3, stuff your hand, and then when you get either the Coulson down again or a Nick Fury down, boom, you fill up your hand, and then there's no room for your card to bounce back into. So then once you're at that point, you can then play any cards into it as long as they generate cards. So stick a Sentinel in there, and yeah, super good combo. Big House can be good, so you can't play cards that cost 4, 5, 6 there. However, we can via discounts. Triskelion goes without saying, just filling our hand with random stuff can be good. And Weird World can be surprisingly good, especially if you've got Collector out. Collector just auto-generates power every single turn that way. The other things to consider about when to snap would be if you've got your counter cards. So there's a specific type of shield deck that I like, which we'll look at in a second, called Shield Toolkit, which plays things like Shang-Chi and Enchantress. And if you see that your opponent is playing cards that can be countered, that may well be worth considering a snap. Let's move over to the must-have cards for the Shield archetype. And actually, this is quite an interesting subject here because there's so many different options and so many different styles that you can do within the Shield archetype that actually there's not really, there's sort of not really any must-have cards. I would say that Quinjet is probably the biggest one, because one of the things with the Shield archetype is it's all well and good having random cards, but if they're not being discounted, your only real advantage with playing them is that it's taking your opponent by surprise. Like, they can't guess what you're going to do. Now, that's really good in Conquest, but it's not the strongest thing on its own. So I would say you definitely want some kind of discount card. Quinjet is my favourite. However, the thing that I need to say about Quinjet is Quinjet, as you'll see with most of the deck versions I'm about to share with you, is a double package. It's Quinjet and armour. This is because I was hurt, and I have been hurt repeatedly for the last year. I will play Quinjet down, and it is an absolute certainty that on turn 3, when I play my Agent Coulson, oh, the opponent's playing Killmonger every single damn time. Every single damn time. I cannot tell you how frequently I've had a Quinjet fall victim to Killmonger. So just play armour. It's something that I only even started doing recently, but I absolutely would not go back in a million years. I just wouldn't go back. It is a marriage made in heaven. If you've not tried it before, you just do it, because honestly, Quinjet is the most fragile, disintegrating card in the history of the game, probably. Anyway, another card you may want to consider is Zabu. Zabu works really well, not only with our generating cards like Nick Fury and White Queen, or if you're playing the Shield Toolkit version, which has lots of counters like Enchantress and Shang-Chi. Zabu obviously works brilliantly with those, but also Coulson. Coulson generates a 4-cost card, so you're going to get the discount. And hell, if your curve is something like Quinjet, Zabu, Coulson, you can then play a 4-cost card on turn 4 for 2. So yeah, really good stuff. Or 2 of them if you happen to have 2, which is just an excellent play. Moving over to substitutions. Now these cards is basically just a list of the cards that work well with Shield. Pick and choose whatever you want. I like Agent 13, but can be very fragile. If you happen to be running a deck with Agent 13 and no armour, just assume they're going to die to Killmonger. You will see that in a lot of my decks I actually just play Yellow Jacket instead of Agent 13, but Agent 13 is still a nice option. Mirage, at the time that I'm recording this, is not actually out yet. Mirage comes out in a few days for me. However, I already can tell you she is absolutely incredible. I think she's going to be such a key card in the Shield archetype that I've got her in most of my decks I'm about to share with you. Cable, similar card to Mirage, gives you some information on your opponent in the same way. However, it may deny them a combo, so you may get the extra information that you know they don't have their Shang-Chi or their Arnim Zola or whatever. And so Cable can be really good for giving you some confidence in regards to snapping. Disrupts your opponents a little bit. I like Cable. I find him a little bit weak with that 2 power, and doesn't always feel great to play. Maria Hill, I really like that 3 power, so that extra power on Cable. I obviously prefer to Cable, and she can generate a 1 or 2 cost, so she can just be decent, although you don't always benefit off of the discount with her. If you're pulling a 1-drop, that 1-drop is rarely getting discounted to 0, or certainly never getting discounted to 0 through your own means. It may get Elysiumed, of course. Sentinel is a good one. I really like playing Sentinel in any deck with Devil Dinosaur, because you never want to lose hand size with Devil Dinosaur, and Sentinel means you never lose hand size. Coulson, absolute GOAT. Coulson is probably my favourite card in the game, probably my favourite shield card. Well, if he's your favourite card in the game, then he has to be your favourite shield card. But yeah, just the generation of him. He's just brilliant across the board. 3/4, so he's just solid power. He keeps your hand full for the Devil Dinosaur vibes, and he gives you 2 different options. And generally, 3 and 4 cost cards, they're generally going to be good. There's not many duds you can get from Coulson. Moon Girl, I pretty much exclusively play in Devil Dinosaur decks. Nick Fury, I really like Nick Fury, but do you know what? I don't half miss that 1 power that White Queen has over him when I play Fury. With Fury, I find often that the 6 cost cards it gives you, oh man, they can really not work out with your deck sometimes. So for example, you might get Arnim Zola, Infinaut and Galactus. Some of the cards totally aren't even playable with your playstyle, and just, oh man, there's Nick Fury is just on the borderline of being incredible for me. I do, however, think he is incredible in Devil Dinosaur, especially on that final turn. If you've got Zabu out, final turn of like Nick Fury boosting up your Devil Dino, and maybe you've just played Mystique as well. So yeah, I really like him in the correct or in the right deck that fits for him. And then of course Devil Dinosaur. Collector, I was sort of going in energy order, but I forgot to say Collector. Yeah, Collector's really good. I really like him. I don't use him in many shield decks though, just because I'm typically doing something better on turn 2, like either an armor to protect my Quinjet, or a Zabu. I find those cards generally a little bit more useful than Collector, although I appreciate he can grow up, he's not a child, he can grow in power and be really strong even on his own and potentially win a location, but I don't know, I just prefer playing those other 2 drops. White Queen, touched on her a second ago. God, she's just incredible. That 4/6 power is so good. She gives you information on literally what your opponent can and probably will do on their final turn, which is so useful. And in the instances of things like, especially with the Surfer negative deck going around at the moment with Bast and Iron Man and stuff, if it can give you that Iron Man, you can then go toe to toe with them in that Iron Man location, and yours is cheaper. So yeah, White Queen is incredible. And again, as I'm filming this, that beach variant where she's in diamond form isn't out yet. I need it. And then Devil Dinosaur. Devil Dinosaur, massive staple of the shield archetype. Not in all of my decks, but in a few of them, as you'll see shortly. And when I say shortly, I mean immediately. Let's look at the different versions of the deck. So this first one I've got for you is the all-in on shield. This features multiple discount cards, so Quinjet and Zabu, and then basically like almost every card that adds stuff to your hand. So Agent 13 is featured here. We have got Collector here because this is an all-in shield and we're constantly going to be adding stuff to our hand. That's why I've got Collector there. And also because overstuffing our hand may bloody well come up with this deck. That is also why I've got Collector here as well. The other thing here is because we've got lots of discounters and we're adding lots of stuff to our hand, which means we're going to be playing a lot of cards. I've also got Hulkbuster in here so that we can truly like overstuff locations and fill stuff and also filter stuff out of our hands. Mirage is here because she's bloody awesome, probably. As I said, I haven't played her yet. And then just the other guys here like Devil Dinosaur and whatnot, because this is the way. I don't know what else to say about this deck. Next up is the Double Plus Dino. The reason I've called it Double Plus is because we may well bloody have 3 Devil Dinosaurs here. Because we are playing the classic combo of Devil Dinosaur with Moon Girl. We've also got a different option in this deck as well. You'll see Arnim Zola. This is a play that I really like doing. I think I saw, definitely Cozy Snap mentioned this recently, but I've seen it. I've seen other people do it, but honestly not that many. Basically playing Devil Dinosaur on 5 into an isolated location and then playing your Arnim Zola to duplicate it and copy it in 2 other locations. Now, the scenario in which I would do that is if my hand is already super stuffed. Maybe it's full. In fact, you probably want it to be full, because if you're playing Arnim Zola on the final turn, you're actually losing 2 power from Devil Dinosaur. So you want to make sure that it's still really big and going in the other locations. The great reason to play this is, of course, it's a bit of a Shang-Chi bait. So you need to make sure that you've got priority. But other than that, this is the double Dino vibes. So we've got Moon Girl and Mystique, which can both allow you to play double Devil Dinosaur, especially with Moon Girl keeping your hand nice and full as well. I don't think there's that much else to explain about this, other than I have got Cosmo in here, which is very counter-intuitive to a lot of the cards in our deck, with them all generating stuff. However, on the final turn, it can be really good to play Devil Dinosaur, and then your Mystique, and then your Cosmo to block off the Devil Dinosaur from being killed, or some sort of combination of that. So yeah, fun deck. Next up, this is probably what I would say is the best deck featured in this video. This is Shield Toolkit. This is probably the one that I play most frequently. The idea with it is that it's a bit more of a control version of the Shield archetype. So first of all, I've got Yellow Jacket in here. I mentioned earlier, I don't really... well, or at least I implied it. I don't really like playing 1-drops because they just die to Killmonger. So Yellow Jacket is just a good option to get some power into a location. That is if you need it. In many instances with this deck, I hold on to Yellow Jacket as long as possible, because you generally don't actually want priority, because this is where we've got our Zabu into our counterplays. So Enchantress and Shang-Chi, you're going to absolutely destroy decks with like Iron Man or Cerebro, and then because we have still got our discounters, so we've got Zabu and we've got Quinjet, and we've got our generation tools like Agent Coulson and Nick Fury, so we are going to go quite wide. We're going to be potentially playing a lot of cards, so a really nice card to feature in a lot of these Shield decks is Blue Marvel as well. We're going to be quite wide. It allows us to get that extra power everywhere, so Blue Marvel actually feels really good in these style of decks. Next up, this is called Move Tempo, as you can see on screen there. However, I actually call this deck Craven Agent of Shield. I bloody wish I had this Craven variant. I do not. I'm absolutely fuming about it. I've been searching my shop every day for 7 years. No, I haven't, obviously. But yeah, I'm bloody desperate for this Craven variant. Anyway, I've not even spoken about the deck yet. It's basically Shield vibes. So you've got your generation and your discounters with Quinjet, Coulson and Fury. And then we've got like this extra ability to sort of manipulate our opponent and disrupt our opponent with things like Juggernaut and Aero, along with some move buffers like Craven, Silk. If you can get Craven down with this deck, it honestly feels so good. With Captain Marvel in here as well. If you've got Craven down, play Captain Marvel on a different location, because it basically makes the Captain Marvel a 5/8, which feels really, really good, and it allows you to do stuff like Juggernaut at the end of the game. And also the rescue feels really good here, especially on top of armor. I would honestly encourage you to give this one a try. It's a hell of a lot of fun. It's not always the strongest. It's not as strong as a toolkit, but if you're looking for fun, this deck is brilliant. And the last deck suggestion I have for you is the Oreo Hand Double Stuf. Stupid. Yeah, I don't know why I put the Oreo logo there. This is basically just a super stuffed hand version of Devil Dinosaur. So we've got Collector in here, loads of stuffy hand stuff. How many times can I actually say stuff? But also Shanna as well. Because if one of the things we're concentrating on is going really vertical with Devil Dinosaur and maybe Mystique, another thing that we can do is play Shanna and really fill out the board, get a lot of power onto the board. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're losing much from our hand, unless Shanna goes and plays Blade, which can be disastrous, and I have had happen, to be perfectly frank. But yeah, there's some different deck options for you. Let me know in the comments below which one looks interesting to you, or which one is your favourite. Penultimately, before I do the outro for this video, let's talk about weaknesses of this deck. Now, first and foremost, a lot of these decks are relying on Devil Dinosaur, which means we have a large a super high power card that is weak and susceptible to not only Shang-Chi but also Enchantress. So the opponents have got a double chance to really take care of our Devil Dinosaurs. So that means you either need to be super conscious of it. So in some of these decks we've got like Cosmo to prevent that from happening, or Arnim Zola, like the trick stuff. But yeah, just be conscious of it, be aware of it, that it can absolutely fuck you up, obviously. Enchantress in general is actually just quite strong against the shield archetype because we do have a lot of ongoing stuff. For that reason, I very rarely play Quinjet and Zabu into the same location. Unless you're trying to trick your opponent. Maybe you've generated Iron Man. If you have and you want your opponent to Enchantress a location, yeah, screw it. Stuff the vehicle and the cat in the same location as a bit of bait. Another thing that the shield archetype can be quite weak to is just like very high power combo decks. I generally struggle against destroy decks unless I'm playing armor variants of this of these decks. Armor works really well against the destroy stuff, obviously. However, if they've already got stuff going and they can null and stuff, it's a level of power that we can't really reach with this deck. So if you are seeing a lot of that stuff, if you're playing Conquest and you're seeing a lot of that stuff, I would switch across to the Shield Toolkit version to allow you to have those tools to actually take care of those combo decks. And that is all I have for you today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Yeah, just in summary, the shield archetype, I absolutely love it. It's basically my favourite archetype in the game. I love the unpredictability. It really feels like every single game is different. There's so many different stories that you can make through playing the game. So many fun interactions, and it just feels fresh every time. So that's why I really like it. And also, just like the shield archetype has some of my favourite variants in the game. Like when you upgrade your Coulson to like incredible splits like I've got a gold foil rainbow crackle Coulson, it means the cards that he generates have those same effects, and it feels so sick playing all these like a full board of these epic effect cards. So absolutely awesome. What do you think of the shield archetype? Did you enjoy this video? Is there anything that you want to see me improve on? It's only the second in-depth deck guide that I've done, and I'm still learning the ropes really. So thank you again for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Cheers.